Welcome to the Fantasy Football Hub channel for the next episode in the My Team series. Today I'm joined by Andy, aka Let's Talk FPL, the biggest name in FPL YouTube with almost 350,000 subscribers, who's going to be revealing his current FPL draft. Andy, how you doing? Pleasure to have you on, mate. How's preseason been treating you?
Yeah, it's not too bad. I'm ready for the season to start now. This is probably going to go out, like 4 or 5 days before the season starts, so I'm ready for it to begin. That's where it gets really interesting. By the way, you might as well go and subscribe, right? Help me hit 350k. I forgot I was that close. So,
well, this is what I was going to say. Not? Link down below, first line of the description and in the pinned comment. Go and give Andy a hand. I mean, he's been doing this for so long now. He deserves a 350k. Get him there before game week 1. Anyway, mate, let's get into your team. We're going to be building this, as always, on Fantasy Football Hub's My Team tool. It's completely free to do so if you want to do yourself. We're going to build Andy's team player by player, and that's going to give us a team rating at the end. Okay, Andy, start us off with the goalkeepers.
Yeah, so Nana and Areola, like I'm sure you've seen quite a lot. I think there's a slight consideration for me to go 4.5 just to get that money to spend elsewhere. But right now I don't feel like I need it. And Onana just seemed like a bit of a kind of safe choice almost. Like I'm sure I just assume that he'll be fine. He might not be the best goalkeeper, but it'd be very unlikely for him to be awful. Whereas with the 4.5s, there will be one that does great, but you might pick the wrong one. That makes sense?
Absolutely. I feel like it's one of those that you can just move down from Onana at any point to the 4.5 that establishes themselves. And yeah, for the start of the season, the fixtures are pretty decent. You're a United fan. What do you reckon? Defense going to be as good as last year? A bit better with Onana?
Yeah, I would say the defense probably overperformed a little bit. Like I think it was 17 clean sheets. I think if he could get that again, that would be great. I think it will probably be less, but I don't think it makes him a bad choice for goalkeeper. I think it's likely that his bonus will probably be better because we're more likely to play around the back. Whereas with De Gea in a lot of games, it was kind of hoofball. It was like get the ball forward and just hope that someone would win it, even though, Weghorst wasn't always on the pitch. So most of the time it was just lost balls. With Onana, you're more likely to see lots of short passes, so that could help. So yeah, overall, it's an interesting one. I don't necessarily think he's better or worse than De Gea, but I do think if De Gea was still there, no one would be picking him. So it's kind of interesting. And I'm the same, right? I've got him.
Point.
I'm a hypocrite. I've got him as well. Would I be considering if he's De Gea? I'm not sure I would be. But there is a little bit of that. There is a little part of me that thinks he could get an assist, and that would be quite nice to see while he's in my team. Not very likely. He's not going to go and get 5 assists a season, but it could happen,
That's so true. If De Gea was at 5 million, you're so right. He'd be in much fewer teams than Onana's in. Food for thought nonetheless, but he is very template at the moment. Okay then, who is in the defence?
Just before we do the defence, I'll just say on Areola, obviously we're recording this Friday. There's a report from Fabrizio Romano that Nottingham Forest are bidding for Turner at Arsenal. And he's only 4 million as well. So if he becomes first choice and Areola, we don't have confirmation, then it'll be Turner that goes in instead. But yeah, defense, Gabriel and Estepinian. Again, it's so boring, but it's so hard to turn them down. They've been in every single draft. Like Onana's not been in every single one. Some of the other attackers haven't. Those two have been in every single one. So they'll definitely be in there. I've currently got Chilwell in my back 3. So he's playing game week 1 against Liverpool. And then the 2 on the bench, if you want them now.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, Henry at Brentford and Kabore at Luton as my 4 million defender of choice. So they're the 2 on the bench.
Right, I feel like we need to talk about Henry first of all. So you've got a solid playing bench option there, which I haven't seen in a lot of drafts. A lot of FPL experts are going for 2 4 million defenders, the likes of Bulldog and Bayer in there as well. How come you're going for Henry?
I have considered going for 2 4s because the idea would obviously be to not use them that much anyway. But interestingly, I've seen a lot of people on Twitter seem really worried about game week 4 because Estepinian plays Newcastle. Now, personally, I'm not a massive worrier about that. If I have to play him, it's not the end of the world. But that same week, Henry plays Bournemouth at home, which is pretty decent. And outside of maybe game week 1, where you'd hope all your players are going to play anyway, so you don't need him, and game week 5, which is Newcastle away, I'm happy to play him in the other 4 games of the first 6 weeks, like Fulham away, Palace at home, Bournemouth at home, and Everton at home. So if something goes wrong, I just feel like he's a little bit more reliable than the other 4 million defenders. That's about it. I guess I'm paying 0.5 million for a bit of security. That's all. It may or may not be worth it. I get why other people aren't doing it. But for me, I think it's probably worth doing.
No, I definitely appreciate the reasoning there. It feels like only 0.5 more to have very solid security. I don't think any of us really would be that happy with the likes of Bulldog or even Kabore coming into the team. We don't even know if they're necessarily going to start, whereas Henry plays for a solid defense. And the final question I've got, obviously, Estepinian and Gabriel, pretty solid picks. They're in pretty much every team. Chilwell over the likes of Stones. No City coverage, despite them historically being the best defense. Why is that?
Yeah, I mean, before we get to game week 1, I might talk myself into Edison. Let's be honest.
Wow.
One of the reasons I've not got Edison is because I was punished so heavily by him last season, and that should not matter whatsoever when I'm making decisions this year. But it does play on your mind. I literally used transfers 3 separate times last year to get him in, and at no point was he good for me. So that's in the back of my mind. I think before Jesus got injured, there was more of a chance of that happening because I had Jesus up front. And then instead of Martinelli, I had like a 6.5 million midfielder. So there was a lot more money. I know, sorry, I'm skipping forward, but there was a lot more money to go around, which could have been spent on those positions. And at one point, I did have Stones playing and Chilwell on the bench. But because of the way I've had to spread the money in attack, it's a lot more difficult to do. And the other thing with Man City, they've got a lot of defenders. Like Vardiol, again, at the time recording is not in, but that's happening. Pep Guardiola's even spoken about him at this point. So you've got Vardiol, Ake, Laporte still there, Diaz, Stones, Akanji, that's 6 centre-backs. Kyle Walker's still there. João Cancelo's there as well. Now, I think he's probably not in the good books, but he might play himself into a position at some point. So there's just so many defenders there, and they've all got very little upside in terms of attack. I know John Stones plays in midfield, but if I've got any of them versus a Chilwell, that's who I'm going for. And obviously, Man City have got the better first fixture, but after that, Chelsea's fixtures are fine. Even game week 2, West Ham away is not a problem. And from what we've seen in pre-season, the left-hand side seems to be where they're attacking more, which is Chilwell's spot. So that's it. Like they're great, Man City, but I don't know. Sometimes you want to go for that kind of. If they just don't feel as upsidey as the other players, basically. Exactly. To the point where if I did find 1 million to spend somewhere to upgrade Henry, I'd be seriously tempted to have James instead of Man City defender, but. That may or may not happen.
There we go. I do agree with that. Chilwell's just a much more fun pick than Stones. If you're just going to sit down and watch a game of football, Chilwell's the one you want to own. He's had a very good preseason, looks very attacking, as Andy says. Yeah, just bombing down that left wing. Looking good. Okay, so that is it for the defence. Let's move on to the midfield.
Yeah, so I suspect you can guess most of these. Fernandes and Rashford. Double up on Man United. I've got a double up on Arsenal, Saka and Martinelli. I will say this is the first time Martinelli's been in a draft of mine, and that's only because Jesus has got injured. And then Mbeumo is my favourite 6.5. And also, just a little bit of a plug, I think if you go and look on the points projections for Hub for the first 8 weeks, he is the top 6.5, I think.
Yeah, he is.
Kind of backs up my own thinking. Penalties. I think he's probably the most nailed attacker they have, more so than Wissa and Schade, etc. And just good numbers. So I love the guy.
It's interesting. Like a lot of people are really kind of keen on Mitoma, but yeah, according to the predicted points, Mbeumo is slightly ahead. One thing that I forgot to mention is obviously you clearly have a very, very packed midfield. Martinelli instead of Odegaard. I want to get your thoughts on that. Obviously 0.5 cheaper, but is that a very easy decision for you?
Nah, not at all. If they were the same price, I'd probably pick Odegaard. Like if he was 8 million as well, I'd probably go there. I'm someone that kind of these days, at least, maybe not in my early days playing FPL, but I do worry about minutes quite a lot. So when people say things like, doesn't matter if Martinelli comes off early because he can score before he does, I think that's something that in the past I would have agreed with, but now kind of less so. Obviously he can score before he comes off, but if you're not on the pitch as much as the others, there's kind of less chance. It's kind of, I'm finding it difficult because I think his minutes are worse than Odegaard, but his underlying numbers are better. So I think it probably evens out, especially when you take the 0.5 into account. And there's just not really anywhere I particularly want to save 0.5. I guess if you're looking at combinations like Martinelli and I'm going to say Henry, or Odegaard plus another 4 million. It makes it a bit harder to kind of justify that. So yeah, I don't know if Martinelli will definitely stick, but I feel like I've got to have 3 Arsenal because their opening fixtures are just too good to turn down. And also that midfield outside of, even Son I could get, outside of De Bruyne and Salah, there's no one you can't get with that midfield. So if Martinelli's not an option, you're probably going down to 7.5, 7 or 6.5. So not only have you got ready-made replacements, you're also going to bank money along the way as well.
This is one thing I was thinking, because you don't have Trent in your team, you can really attack the midfield. And obviously it's a very stacked midfield. Even Mbeumo as your cheapest player in there at 6.5 is very solid. Trent, has he been in your drafts at all? Pre-season, he seems to just be completely out of favor now on Twitter and YouTube and FPL sort of spheres. It's weird. 8 million is obviously a lot of money, but he's Trent. Why is he not in any teams?
It's just a combination thing for me. Like, he was in my first draft and then he left, then he came back in, and it got to the point where I was telling myself, I don't think I'm going to start without him. But the more I looked at it, he just hasn't been in for a while. And it's just a combination. So let's say I want to stick with most of this draft, then I could easily switch Martinelli to Trent for the same money. But then I've got to switch Chilwell to a 5.5 million midfielder, or Henry to like an Anderson or someone like that. So I could play 4-4-2 and have Anderson or, Nakamba, whoever it is, on the bench. But I just feel like it's every year in FPL, the cheaper defenders are just better value than the cheaper attackers most of the time. Last year, obviously, we had Andreas Pereira. It was a little bit different. But usually that's how it works. And so that's all there is to it. And also, I don't know, I'm probably subconsciously just talking myself into it because I don't really want to go for him. But they do have 5 away games in the first 8, and 4 of them are, I can't remember which ones they are off the top of my head, but 4 of them are difficult. I think one's Wolves, and then it's like Chelsea, Spurs, Brighton, and someone else, Liverpool. So they don't have the easiest fixtures. And I guess if you want some confirmation bias, if you're not going for him, I think their transfer business has been good so far. They've signed McAllister, they've signed Soboslai. There's rumours they're going to get what's his name from Southampton? Lavia. Yeah. So they're all good signings, but that's also 3 new players to a new squad that hasn't played a huge amount of football with this 3-2-5, whatever it is, in build-up where Trent's in midfield. So there's quite a lot of changes there. And again, I don't think that's enough to say that the Liverpool players are bad options, but it's kind of enough to confirm my bias that I should start without him. I think Trent's not such a worry because of those midfielders, it's easy to get him. Salah is a bigger concern for me because there's just not a good path with this team apart from selling Haaland.
That is what I was going to ask you. Yeah, it is quite flexible. Say Trent starts the season unbelievably well. Yeah, it's just a midfield downgrade away really from getting to him. But yeah, Salah is one. If he does well game week 1, come game week 2, people could be absolutely scrambling. Not in your team. Any consideration for him?
So I'll tell you what, if Nketiah starts against Man City in the Community Shield, then all of a sudden that opens up possibilities for Salah, but there's obviously risks with that. Lots of risks. Even if he starts against City, it doesn't mean he's going to start against Forest, etc. But obviously the beauty of Salah is it's a lot of money. You can easily switch that money back in. So for example, right, you could do Fernandes and Watkins and Martinelli. Watkins, Martinelli, Fernandes could be Nketiah, Mitoma, and Salah, which doesn't sound too bad. You're still getting that second Arsenal spot, but I just don't think I'll do it. It's too much risk there early on. The only reason I'm even considering it is because all my other picks are so solid and likely to get good minutes. There might not be too many transfers to do early on. So having Salah there. But the other thing is captaincy in game week 2. I don't know if I've got the balls to captain Salah, to be honest with you.
You would need them. Yeah,
it's a bit like the Edison thing I spoke about earlier. I got punished so much last year going Salah early on by Haaland, and that's basically what cost me top 10k in the end, amongst other things. But that was a big thing, and so that just worries me too much. Like, even if I've got Salah in my team, am I going to have the balls to captain him when I know that Haaland's going to be 200% effective ownership or close enough? So yeah, again, I hate going without him because he's been such a legend over the last 6 years, and I think anyone that's going into this season thinking Salah's going to be bad is crazy because he's absolutely not. He could easily get a hat-trick or more against Bournemouth. But I just feel like the way the pricing is, I'm probably going to go without. But let's see. If Nketiah scores a brace on Sunday,
could change everything. Obviously, this is being recorded and has come out before at that Community Shield. But still a week to go until the deadline. Still things that could change in Andy's team, of course. Let's get on to Haaland. Obviously going to be in your team, and yeah, it looks great, of course. But the question I want to ask you, I want to see your thoughts. You're chatting about game week 2 there, and Salah's a really good captain option. It would be ballsy to go for him. But do you prefer that fixture for Salah over Newcastle at home for Haaland, for people that may be on both of them or looking to go really aggressive and go for captain Salah in that game? Because according to the predicted points, Haaland is still predicted to get more points against Newcastle than Salah, according to the Hub's AI. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's probably, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's probably quite close, I would assume. Do you have them there?
It's within a point. So Salah's predicted to get 7.2, Haaland 8.1.
So it depends what kind of manager you are, right? People will probably say I'm boring and safe. That's absolutely fine. But I think if you're looking for an early edge, then Salah against Bournemouth has to be it. And it's not just that. Like last year, a lot of us had both, and most people just captained Haaland. So Salah was still quite highly owned. This year, it's completely different. It's not just that people are captaining Haaland. They're also not owning Salah. So right now, he's 23.8% is his overall ownership. I think I did a video the other day from teams that are probably a bit more engaged than the overall player. Is around the same. Like 650 teams that were sent in to me. obviously engaged managers that are tinkering pre-season, he was like 24.5%. So he is going to be a differential against a weaker defense. The only thing is, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, I'd imagine Haaland's returns at home last season were absolutely ridiculous. I think that there was some games, because again, I remember captaining him in the wrong games early on, away from home, where he might have only got a goal or something like that. But at home, he was an absolute machine. And also, I do wonder whether Newcastle might be a little less good this year defensively, because they were so good last year, and that's not that's not a dig at them. I don't expect them to suddenly become a team we target, absolutely not, but I don't know if they can be as elite as they were last year. So it kind of, for me, it's just, is there enough to go against Haaland with that ownership? And the answer is probably no. But if you're someone that is much braver than me, you've got a differential, probably the best differential you'll maybe get all season.
Yeah, I think so. Outside of maybe doubles and stuff, but that's the thing. Like, no one's on him right now. You're right. Imagine getting Salah as a 200% EO play for yourself, right, against Bournemouth at home, a team they absolutely battered last season at home, 9-0.
Yeah, and people will tell you he didn't score it. I almost saw that. He didn't score in again. I don't know how, by the way. Like, the chances of that happening again would seem pretty slim. What was I going to say about Haaland? Yeah, the problem is you almost feel like Haaland starts on one goal. Like, going into game week 2, you already know he scored against Newcastle, almost certainly. You might not get any more than that, but that's almost like his baseline. So he's already on 6 points plus potential bonus before Salah's even started. So yeah, I wish I was a little bit braver, or maybe it's not just, I should say, it's not just the captaincy thing. You also have to acknowledge that as much as I think the pricing is generally cheap, the players that we had in our teams last year to enable Salah and Haaland have got more expensive, right? We had Martinelli at 6, Odegaard 6.5, Rashford 6.5. Most of those players are still in our team. They just now cost 2.5-3 million more. So it's not just the fact that I won't captain him in game week 2. It's just that he's much more difficult to get to, and there's so many solid options in that 8 to 9 million bracket.
Okay, then let's round this team off with the final forward that's going to start for you, and the 4.5 as well. Or sorry, I say 4.5. Could be any price.
It's 4.5.
Yeah.
So Watkins, I mentioned him already.
Yeah.
I kind of been forced, like, again, I don't want this to sound like I think he's a bad pick, because he's not, but I've basically been forced into it because I had Jesus, he got injured. I put Nkunku in, he got injured. And Watkins is just the next best option for that kind of price. And I'm a little bit loath to go too much lower than that, because I think there's just a bit, maybe Jackson, possibly Højlund, maybe when he comes in finally, but Watkins just seems so obvious to go for after those two. And then my 4.5 is Mubama from West Ham, just because right now he seems the most likely to get minutes, but I do think it's it's one of those where there's more hope than anything else. He's played a lot of minutes in preseason. I think he's played in every game for West Ham so far, but I'm not sure they're going to continue playing, because some games he's played up front with Ings, like as a 2. I'm not sure that's going to continue. It's not really something Moyes has played a lot last year, I don't think. So we'll see, but he seems the most likely right now. Hopefully, as we're all hoping that Balogun goes to another Premier League club and becomes first choice, but that also seems like very wishful thinking right now.
Yeah, I agree with Watkins. It is kind of a shame that 8 million or second striker role. It was one of the few positions I think that we had in our teams, which was very much a gut pick. The likes of Nkunku, Jesus, even people weren't completely bullish on him. A lot of people were still going for the likes of Martinelli, even with Jesus being fit. But yeah, I feel like we've all happened upon Watkins now, who we've been underrating the entire time. Very, very solid pick nonetheless. I just want to ask you briefly, any thoughts on a Newcastle forward? Wilson has very high predicted points. I've seen you on Twitter mentioning that you're not sure about his minutes at all. Or a Liverpool forward, Nunes, or maybe even Gakpo.
Yeah, I wish I could go there, but they're just all risks for me.
Yeah.
Liverpool just got 4 attackers for 2 spots. Simple as that, right? Salah's nailed on. We all know that he's going to play pretty much every game. So you got Darwin and Gakpo competing for 1 spot. And look, Darwin scored a lot of goals during preseason, but I think he did the same last year, and he didn't get many minutes after that. So it's hard to know. And I think Gakpo and Darwin are just 2 slightly different profiles of player. Like, Gakpo's probably better off the ball, like in the press, and Darwin's better for chaos in and around the box. So I think it could just depend what fixture they've got. Like, if I had to guess, Gakpo's going to start against Chelsea and Darwin's going to start against Bournemouth. That would be my assumption. And that's just not, like, of course I would love Darwin Nunez playing 80 minutes against Bournemouth, but it's not enough to start with him. And again, I could be very wrong, but I think Isak is ahead of Wilson for that number 9 spot, despite what happened last year. And the only reason they played so much together was because of injuries. And they don't have most of those injuries now. And also they've signed Harvey Barnes. So he can play left wing. Someone like Almiron's going to play on the right, and then you've got Wilson and Isak for 2 spots. So even if Wilson is first choice, and he is great when he plays, that you got a ready-made replacement that can come on like 60, 65 minutes in Isak. So yeah, this is why I'm saying I'm kind of forced into Watkins. It's not that he's a bad option. He's definitely not, right? His minutes are great. He's probably still on penalties. We don't know. And Villa's fixtures are okay. And obviously under Unai Emery, they've done great as well. But it's more just that there's no one else at that price now. I really wanted to go Jesus. I was happy with that, but it is what it is.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, that is the team. Final thing to do is reveal the team rating now. Andy, obviously you're an affiliate with Fantasy Football Hub. I'm sure you're on the site a lot. Do you know your team rating for this particular team?
Is it 98? I can't remember if I plugged it in earlier.
Let's
Was
have
it
a look.
a little bit lower?
It is 98.
Yeah,
it is 98%. Very strong. One of the strongest we've seen all preseason. Right now, if you had to say, obviously a week out from deadline, do you think this is pretty much going to be the team?
Yeah, obviously, like you said, injuries and stuff can happen. But I would say, in terms of first 11, won't worry about the bench. I would say Onana, Gabriel, Estepini and Chilwell, pretty much locked in. Saka and Burmo, Fernandes, Rashford. Watkins, unless Nkunku is fit and available for game week 1. But I've got to be honest, I don't even know if I would take the risk now. I would probably just wait till game week 3. And then, of course, Haaland. So I would say pretty much the whole first 11 apart from Martinelli. I mean, that could change. That could change. Like, there's a lot. Do you know what I mean? Community Shield could throw up a big injury and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd love, like Foden, for example. Maybe he would then come in the mix. But I look at that team and just think, who am I changing? Because
what if Foden starts? What if Foden starts and it's good?
But then who do I get rid of? Like, I either try and free up money to get Burmo up to him, which is difficult. I could go Chilwell to a 4.5, I guess, but that's. I kind of want at least one Chelsea player ready for that fixture swing. I don't necessarily want to pre-book transfers. Or I swap Martinelli. He would probably be the most likely. But then I've only got double Arsenal with Forest at home, Palace away, Fulham at home, and that feels really wrong. And as we know with Man City, they may well start that game. Who knows about the next one or the one after that? I guess they have got fewer players at the moment. And if De Bruyne still struggling for minutes, then Foden's probably going to be one of the best differentials to start the season, especially with their fixtures. I don't know. I could just do with 7 or 8 midfield spots, really, like everyone else.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the problem. Or Jesus back. Jesus, I'm telling you, Jesus was the key to everything because he
unlocked everything.
Yeah, he got you those 3 Arsenal players without taking a midfield spot. He was the key.
It's true. Well, who knows? He may come back quite soon and change everything when we get to wildcard 1. But for now, that is the team. 98% rating. Very good stuff. However, there's a little bit of a room for improvement. So let's now have a look at what Fantasy Football Hub's AI recommends that you change in this team. Okay then, Andy, here are your recommended transfers personalized to your current draft. Guys, if you would like your own AI recommended transfers, then the link to sign up to Fantasy Football Hub is down below. Just a week left now until the season starts. If you sign up in pre-season before the deadline, you get 50% off. And if you don't win your mini league, you will get all your money back, a full refund. That is how confident the team is in the product. Okay then, Andy, I don't know if you're going to like these transfers. Onana is gone. I'll tell you who's gone first because they all add up. The money makes sense, but yeah, Onana's gone, Chilwell is gone, and Watkins is gone. And in comes a man that I don't know. You just said your nemesis, Edison. Stones has come in for Chilwell, and Darwin has come in for Watkins to kind of fund it all. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I like when transfers get suggested like this, because then you have to think about why it's suggesting that. And the obvious reason for Edison is just clean sheets. Like, as good as Man United were last year, if you're going to back a defence, it's going to be Man City. So I do get it, but for all the reasons I said earlier, I just don't think I can go back there. And also, I don't obviously like the way it's funding it, because Darwin Nunez is just not for me. If Gakpo was injured, that would be a lot more interesting. So I think you got to obviously take minutes into consideration. But I fully get why. I said this earlier, didn't I? I should forget about last season, and Edison should probably be in. He's going to be the best way probably to, what word am I looking for, to back that Man City defence, because he's probably the only one that's absolutely nailed on. But yeah, I don't think I can do it. I'm going to back. I'm a Man United fan as well, so kind of more fun having the triple up there.
I completely understand, and that is kind of the point of the recommended transfers. You mentioned it yourself earlier in the video. You have that kind of bias or the bad experience from last year. But that's kind of part and parcel of being a fantasy manager. There's a reason that some people have have fantasy players on their walls that have given them great experiences and big points hauls before in the past, because, you know, they like those sort of players. And if you have someone like Edison, who's been so bad for you in particular last year, you can't just say, you know what, yeah, we'll go there again. It's part of the game, isn't it? So yeah, they are recommended transfers for a reason. They are completely unbiased, and I guess that is the kind of point, to give you a little bit of an unbiased look, just backed by data. Okay, that is it for the recommended transfers, and that is going to do it for the video. Andy, thank you very much for showing your team. It's going to be interesting to see how much that changes as we get towards the deadline. As always, guys, if you want to do anything that we've done with Andy's team for your own team, links are down below. Andy, thanks very much as always, and I'll see you guys on the next episode.